Okay, so we're diving into Canada's immigration scene for like 2024. We're going deep into excerpts from the annual report to Parliament on immigration. Think of us as your shortcut to understanding this like massive document.
Yeah, it's a fascinating report. Although I think it's so interesting is how it tackles this central question. How can Canada maximize the benefits of immigration while at the same time addressing the pressures it puts on things like housing and healthcare?
Yeah, right from the start. The minister's message, it highlights this tension. Immigration is a cornerstone of Canada. It drives economic growth and enriches cultural diversity, but it also brings challenges. So how do we balance those needs? I mean, that's our mission today.
Well, the report jumps right into economic impact, and the numbers are impressive. Immigrants, they make up almost 29% of the labor force and are essential for filling skilled jobs, especially in tech, healthcare, and trades. And here's something that really stood out to me. Canada is ranked #1 in the OECD for attracting startup founders.
Wow. Number one, that's huge. So we're not just talking about filling job gaps. We're talking about attracting innovators and entrepreneurs who are driving economic growth.
Exactly. And this is especially important given Canada's aging population and low birth rates. Immigration is key to maintaining a strong workforce and ensuring continued economic prosperity.
This makes me think about the housing market. It's a hot topic everywhere, but especially with increased immigration.
Oh, absolutely. The report calls out the record low vacancy rate in major cities. It hit 1.5% in 2023. And this isn't just an abstract number. Think about what this means for newcomers trying to find a place to live. They often face obstacles due to limited credit history and unfamiliarity with the system. It can be incredibly tough.
Yeah, you're right. It's not just about numbers. It's about real people facing real challenges.
Yeah.
So how is the report suggesting we tackle this housing crunch?
Well, the report dives into a few different approaches. One is incentivizing the construction of more rental units. They are testing out things like tax breaks and faster approval processes to encourage developers to build more rental housing.
That makes sense. Increase the supply to try and meet the demand. But what about the people already here, especially newcomers? How are their needs being addressed?
Well, the report highlights the importance of providing support to newcomers in navigating the housing market. This includes things like providing information about their rights as tenants, connecting them with affordable housing options, and offering financial assistance in some cases.
Okay, so it sounds like they're trying to address the issue from multiple angles. What about the strain on other essential services like healthcare?
Healthcare is another area where the report acknowledges the challenges and proposes solutions. It's fascinating how immigrants play a dual role. They are essential workers. They make up 25% of the healthcare workforce, but they also increase demand for services.
That's an important point. It's not just about having enough doctors and nurses. It's about ensuring access to healthcare for everyone, regardless of their immigration status.
Exactly. The report talks about the need to invest in training and recruiting more healthcare professionals, particularly in areas experiencing high growth. And there's also a focus on improving language access and cultural competency within the healthcare system to better serve diverse populations.
This all makes sense, but it also sounds like a huge undertaking.
Yeah.
Is the report optimistic about Canada's ability to meet these challenges?
Well, the report doesn't shy away from the difficulties, but it also emphasizes Canada's commitment to finding solutions. It highlights how the government is working with provinces and territories, as well as community organizations, to develop and implement innovative programs to address the needs of newcomers.
Okay, so we've talked about the economic impact, the housing crunch, and the strain on healthcare. What about the individual experiences of immigrants?
That's where the report gets really interesting. It dives into some of the specific challenges newcomers face, like foreign credential recognition. Did you know that over 25% of immigrants with foreign degrees end up working in jobs that don't require a degree?
That's a shocking statistic. That's double the rate for Canadian-born degree holders. What's causing this discrepancy?
The report points to a few factors. Credential recognition processes can be complex and vary by province. It can be a real headache for newcomers trying to get their qualifications recognized. And even when their credentials are recognized, they may still face discrimination or bias from employers who aren't familiar with foreign education systems.
It sounds incredibly frustrating, such a waste of talent and potential. What can be done to address this?
Well, the report emphasizes the need for streamlined and transparent credential recognition processes. There are also initiatives underway to provide more support and guidance to newcomers navigating this system.
It seems like Canada is aware of the challenges and actively working towards solutions.
Hmm.
But I'm curious, what about temporary residents? They make up a significant portion of the population, but we haven't talked much about them yet.
You're right, temporary residents are a crucial part of the conversation. The report provides some surprising insights into this group. For instance, in 2023, there were over 765,000 temporary work permits issued under the International Mobility Program. That's a massive increase from previous years.
Wow, I had no idea the numbers were that high. What's driving this increase?
It seems to be a combination of factors, including Canada's strong economy, targeted recruitment efforts, and a global shift towards more mobile workforces.
So while temporary residents help fill labor gaps, there must be some concerns about the impact on housing and services, right?
Exactly. The report acknowledges these concerns and highlights new policies aimed at managing the number of temporary residents. For example, they've set a goal to limit temporary residents to 5% of the population by 2026.
This suggests a shift in approach, doesn't it? It seems like they're trying to find a balance between attracting temporary workers and ensuring that their presence doesn't overwhelm the system.
It's a delicate balance, and the report doesn't offer easy answers. It encourages us to think critically about the trade-offs involved and the long-term implications of these policies.
Okay, so we've covered the economic impact, the housing crunch, healthcare strains, and challenges with foreign credential recognition. It's a lot to take in, but I feel like we're missing something. We're talking about numbers and policies, but what about the human side of immigration?
You're absolutely right. It's easy to get caught up in the data, but it's important to remember that behind every statistic is a person with a story. And the report does a good job of bringing those stories to light. For example, it highlights Canada's commitment to refugees and humanitarian aid. In 2023, Canada welcomed over 51,000 resettled refugees, including many fleeing conflicts in Afghanistan and Ukraine.
That's incredibly powerful. It speaks to Canada's history as a welcoming and compassionate nation. It also underscores that immigration is not just about economics, it's about human lives, dreams, and aspirations.
Precisely. And the report encourages us to engage with this human dimension of immigration. It asks us to consider what these stories tell us about Canada's values and its place in the world.
This has been an eye-opening dive into the complexities of Canada's immigration landscape. But I feel like we've only just scratched the surface.
You're right. There's still much more to uncover, from the intricacies of specific immigration programs to the nuances of integration and settlement.
Yeah, and something that really stood out to me in this report is the focus on French-speaking immigration outside of Quebec. It seems like they're really trying to strengthen those communities across the country.
Yeah, it's fascinating how the report ties this directly to Canada's commitment to bilingualism. It's not
Yeah,
just about numbers, right? It's about supporting the vitality and growth of Francophone communities everywhere.
exactly. And they've set some pretty ambitious goals.
They have.
Oh, yeah. The report outlines a target of 6% of permanent resident admissions outside Quebec to be French-speaking 2024, with a gradual increase to 8% by 2026. Wow, that's a big jump. So how are they planning on achieving these targets?
Well, they're looking at a multi-pronged approach. One strategy is enhancing the express entry system. Do you know how that works?
I've heard of it, but honestly, I'm not sure I totally understand the details.
Sure. So it's basically a points-based system used to manage applications for skilled worker immigration. The report proposes awarding additional points to French-speaking candidates, making them more competitive in the selection process.
That makes sense. So it's not just about creating separate programs, it's about integrating French language proficiency into the existing system.
Exactly. And they're also expanding existing initiatives like the Francophone Mobility Program. This program allows employers to hire French-speaking workers from abroad more easily, which is helpful for industries facing labor shortages in Francophone communities.
That's a win-win. It helps employers find skilled workers, and it helps French-speaking newcomers find opportunities in communities where they can thrive.
Right. And on top of attracting French speakers, the report talks about investing in settlement services specifically designed for Francophone newcomers. These services help with everything from finding housing and jobs to accessing language classes and connecting with the community.
This holistic approach makes a lot of sense. Attracting immigrants is one thing, but ensuring they can integrate and build a life is crucial for long-term success. Speaking of integration, I'm curious about how the report addresses the needs of different groups within the immigrant population.
That's another area where the report really shines. It dedicates an entire section to gender and diversity considerations in immigration, which reflects Canada's commitment to an equitable and inclusive system.
I remember seeing that section, and I'm eager to learn more about it. What are some of the key takeaways from this section?
One important focus is addressing the specific challenges faced by women immigrants. They often face barriers related to childcare, language proficiency, and recognizing foreign credentials, especially those coming from cultures where women's roles are more traditional.
It's so important to acknowledge these unique barriers and develop solutions that empower women to succeed.
Oh, absolutely. The report highlights initiatives aimed at providing affordable childcare options, enhanced language training, and tailored support for women entrepreneurs. There's also a focus on addressing gender-based violence and discrimination.
It sounds like they're taking a comprehensive approach to supporting women immigrants. What about other groups facing unique challenges?
Yeah, the report also talks about the importance of supporting LGBTQ+ immigrants, racialized newcomers, and people with disabilities. It emphasizes the need for targeted programs and services that cater to the specific needs of these groups.
It's encouraging to see this level of attention being paid to diversity and inclusion within the immigration system. But it's also a reminder that there's always more work to be done to create a truly equitable system.
Absolutely. And the report acknowledges this. It talks about the importance of ongoing data collection and research to better understand the experiences of diverse immigrant groups and identify areas where policies can be improved.
So let's switch gears a bit and talk about temporary residents again. I know we touched on them earlier, but I'm particularly interested in those already living and working in Canada.
Oh, that's a really important point. The report highlights a growing trend: attracting temporary residents who are already in Canada and providing them with pathways to permanent residency. This is a significant shift in approach.
It is. Why the shift?
Well, it seems to be driven by a few factors. First, these individuals are already familiar with Canadian society and the job market. They've proven their ability to integrate and contribute. Second, it's a way to address the housing crunch and other strains on services. These individuals are already here and settled, so their impact is less disruptive than newcomers arriving from abroad.
That's a very strategic approach. It seems like a win-win for everyone involved. But how exactly are they facilitating this transition to permanent residency?
Well, the report talks about streamlining the application process for those already in Canada. They are piloting new programs designed to fast-track applications for those in high-demand occupations or who have strong community ties.
That makes sense. And it probably helps employers too, allowing them to retain valued employees who already know the ropes.
Precisely. It's about recognizing the contributions of temporary residents and providing them with a clear path to build a future in Canada.
So we've talked about attracting French-speaking immigrants, promoting diversity and inclusion, and providing pathways for temporary residents to become permanent, all essential pieces of the puzzle. But what about oversight and accountability? How does the report address concerns about the integrity of the immigration system?
That's a crucial point, and the report doesn't shy away from it. It talks about the importance of program integrity and ensuring that everyone is playing by the rules.
Okay, but what does that look like in practice?
The report highlights initiatives aimed at preventing fraud and abuse, strengthening border controls, and improving data collection to better track immigration patterns and identify potential vulnerabilities.
So it's about balancing welcoming newcomers with ensuring the system is fair and secure for everyone.
Exactly. And the report also stresses the importance of transparency and accountability. It outlines measures to improve communication with the public, provide clear information about immigration programs, and strengthen oversight mechanisms.
This all sounds very promising, but I'm curious, are there any areas where the report acknowledges shortcomings or challenges that haven't been fully addressed?
One area the report highlights is the need to improve processing times. The backlog of applications has been a persistent problem, causing delays and frustration for applicants.
That's understandable. It must be incredibly stressful for individuals and families waiting for their applications to be processed. What's being done to address this backlog?
Well, the report outlines investments in technology and staffing to speed up processing times. They're also exploring ways to streamline application processes and reduce administrative burdens.
It sounds like they're committed to improving efficiency, which is essential for a system that impacts so many lives. What about the issue of international students? They're a huge part of the immigration landscape, but we haven't really touched on them yet.
You're right. International students are a key component of Canada's immigration strategy. The report highlights their economic and social contributions and outlines measures to attract top talent from around the world.
I've heard concerns about the affordability of studying in Canada, especially with rising tuition and living costs. Does the report address this issue?
Yeah, It does. It talks about the need to ensure that studying in Canada remains accessible to students from diverse backgrounds. It also mentions initiatives to improve financial aid options and support services for international students.
That's important. Attracting talented students shouldn't just be about those who can afford it. It should be about creating opportunities for everyone.
Absolutely. And the report highlights the importance of ensuring that international students have a positive experience in Canada, both during their studies and afterward.
This all makes sense, but it's a lot to process. I feel like we've just begun to uncover the depth and complexity of Canada's immigration system.
You're absolutely right, and this is only a snapshot of what the report covers. There are so many other facets we could explore, from the intricacies of refugee resettlement to the evolving landscape of economic immigration programs. You're right, there are so many other facets we could explore, from the intricacies of refugee resettlement to the evolving landscape of economic immigration programs.
Yeah, it feels like we've only just begun to uncover the depth and complexity of Canada's immigration system. I know we've talked about housing already, but it keeps coming back to mind. It seems like such a major challenge, not just for newcomers, but for like everyone in Canada.
Absolutely. The report really emphasizes that housing affordability is a key concern, especially in major urban centers. It's a really complex issue with no easy solutions.
Yeah, so how does the report suggest we tackle this challenge? It just feels like a problem with so many contributing factors.
Well, the report highlights a multifaceted approach. On the one hand, they're looking at ways to boost the supply of affordable housing. This includes incentivizing the construction of new rental units and exploring kind of innovative housing models.
Oh, so thinking outside the box when it comes to housing solutions. That's encouraging. But what about the demand side of the equation? How do we address that?
Well, that's where things get really interesting. The report suggests a shift in focus, moving away from concentrating newcomers in major cities. They're piloting programs to attract immigrants to smaller communities where housing is more readily available.
Ah, so spreading the impact, so to speak. I can see how that would help alleviate pressure in certain areas. But wouldn't that create new challenges? I mean, in terms of integration and access to services in smaller communities.
Yeah, that's a valid concern, and the report acknowledges it. They're investing in resources and support systems specifically for smaller communities to ensure newcomers can integrate smoothly and thrive.
That makes sense. It sounds like they're trying to create a win-win situation, supporting the growth of smaller communities while also providing newcomers with more opportunities and a better quality of life.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that immigration is not just an urban phenomenon. It's about harnessing the potential of newcomers to contribute to the vibrancy and prosperity of communities across Canada.
Yeah, that makes me think about another aspect we haven't fully explored, the role of refugees. Canada has a long-standing commitment to welcoming refugees, but how does that play into the overall immigration strategy?
It's a good question. The report highlights the importance of upholding Canada's humanitarian traditions while also ensuring the successful integration of refugees. It's a delicate balance.
It is. I imagine it's incredibly challenging to navigate those two priorities. What specific measures are being taken to support refugees?
Well, they're focusing on providing comprehensive support services, from language training and job placement to mental health and trauma counseling. The goal is to empower refugees to rebuild their lives and contribute to Canadian society.
It sounds like a very holistic approach. Recognizing that integration is more than just finding a place to live and a job. It's about addressing the emotional and psychological well-being of newcomers as well.
Exactly. And the report also emphasizes the importance of engaging Canadians in welcoming refugees. They're promoting initiatives that foster understanding and build bridges between communities.
So it's about creating a more welcoming and inclusive society as a whole. It seems like the report is really trying to move beyond just numbers and policies and get to the heart of what it means to be a welcoming nation.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it. It's about recognizing that immigration is not just a government program. It's a collective endeavor that involves everyone.
Okay, so this brings us back to the central question we posed at the beginning of this deep dive.
Yeah.
How can Canada maximize the benefits of immigration while addressing the inevitable pressures that come with it? What's your take on this?
Yeah.
Having explored the report in such detail.
Well, I think the report does an excellent job of laying out the complexities of this challenge and showcasing a range of innovative solutions. It's clear that the government is committed to finding a balance that works for everyone.
It does seem like they are committed, yeah. And it seems like you're taking a proactive approach, constantly adapting and refining their strategies based on evolving circumstances and emerging trends.
Absolutely. The report emphasizes the importance of ongoing research and data analysis to inform policy decisions and ensure that Canada's immigration system remains responsive and effective.
That's great. It's encouraging to see that level of commitment to continuous improvement. But ultimately, the success of Canada's immigration system depends on more than just policies and programs, right? It relies on the willingness of Canadians to embrace diversity and create a truly welcoming and inclusive society.
I completely agree. It's about fostering a sense of belonging and shared purpose so that newcomers can feel valued and empowered to contribute their unique talents and perspectives.
That's well said. So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one key takeaway you want listeners to walk away with?
That's a good question. I think the most important message is that Canada's immigration journey is a continuous evolution. It's a dynamic process that requires ongoing dialogue, collaboration, and a shared commitment to building a brighter future for everyone.
Absolutely. This has been a truly enlightening exploration of Canada's 2024 annual report to Parliament on immigration. We've covered a lot of ground today, from economic impacts and housing challenges to the importance of language, diversity, and refugee integration.
Yeah, it's been a great conversation. We've only scratched the surface, but hopefully this deep dive has sparked your curiosity and inspired you to learn more about this multifaceted topic.
Yes, and remember, the future of immigration in Canada is a conversation we need to have together. So stay informed, engage in meaningful discussions, and share your perspectives. Your voice matters.
That's right. And if you're feeling inspired to dig deeper, we encourage you to check out the full report and explore the wealth of information available online. There's always more to discover.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and we'll catch you next time on the deep dive for another insightful exploration.